Tonight, guilty of murder, the shocking twist of a Canadian man who claimed the cartel killed his girlfriend. A CTV News exclusive on a murder mystery in Mexico.
Ryan Friesen murdered Kiara Agnew. We can say that.
The family's reaction and what happens next. The former Canadian Olympic snowboarder turned alleged drug kingpin now in custody.
He is a modern-day El Chapo. He is a modern-day Pablo Escobar.
How the manhunt for one of North America's most wanted fugitives came to an end. And swapping skates for soccer cleats.
When I go outside, it just makes me feel happy.
Why soccer is scoring big with young athletes as Canada's top game.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. We begin tonight with a major development in the murder of a Canadian woman on a resort in Mexico in 2023. Her boyfriend, who was found passed out next to her body, was initially found not guilty. But in a stunning turn of events during a months-long W5 investigation, the verdict has been overturned. Here's Avery Haynes with a CTV News exclusive on the man now declared guilty.
We just got situated in our room.
Just hours after this video, Kiara Agnew would be found dead in this resort laundry room. Her boyfriend, Ryan Friesen, with swollen fists, blood embedded in his fingernails, bruised legs and bloody feet, was fast asleep beside her brutalized body. A judge-only trial in Mexico resulted in a controversial not guilty verdict in 2024. But late today, the verdict was overturned.
Now we can say Ryan Friesen murdered Kiara Agnew. We can say that. And that is such a powerful statement. And I'm so proud to be able to say it.
Kiara's Aunt Tanya, sister, father, and stepmother have fought tirelessly for justice for Kiara.
Justice for Kiara!
Protests, letter-writing campaigns, vigils.
My goal is that the monster who murdered my daughter doesn't have a chance to murder anybody else's.
Kiara's own diary is haunting evidence of past violence in the relationship. In one entry, she writes about being beaten by a drunken Friesen who fell asleep and didn't remember it in the morning. In Playa del Carmen, our investigation involved retracing Kiara's final hours, speaking to the first people at the murder scene.
He's coming to the Palapa.
Okay. And showing up at a weekly news conference involving state police, the military, and the deputy prosecutor.
Continuamos con Avery Haynes.
This is 23-year-old Kiara Agnew. Canadians would like to know today what is being done to bring justice to Kiara Agnew.
Tenemos la seguridad.
This was about 2 months ago when State Prosecutor Aroshi Lugo Arana revealed for the first time publicly that an independent magistrate has been reviewing the case and the verdict since 2024. After the news conference, Mexican reporters pepper me with questions about the case.
This is a crime that occurred in Mexico, and it was Mexico's responsibility to bring justice.
And today, that justice was served. Ryan Friesen is now a convicted murderer in Mexico, guilty of femicide.
I just feel Kiara can rest at peace now.
In Canada, though, Friesen from Dawson Creek, British Columbia, is still a free man.
Right now, he's a convicted femicide murderer. So why is he not in jail? I mean,
and if something happens to a Canadian citizen here while he is free in Canada, that is very concerning.
W5 sources in Mexico say unless his appeal is successful, Ryan Friesen will be extradited to Mexico to face up to 50 years in a Mexican jail. Kiara's sister Tiana says there are still so many unanswered questions.
I just want to know what happened that night. I just want justice for Kiara.
Avery Haynes, CTV News.
So how was Ryan Friesen found not guilty in the first place? The full documentary, If I'm Ever Found Dead, exposes the defense arguments and the evidence. That's tomorrow night at 7 on CTV. You can also watch it on Crave. To another major criminal case tonight, a former Canadian Olympian turned alleged drug kingpin Ryan Wedding is now in custody. He surrendered in Mexico City, capping off a massive manhunt. CTV's Kamal Kurmali on the arrest and what comes next.
This is a moment more than a decade in the making. Former Canadian Olympian Ryan Wedding in handcuffs, surrounded by police, brought to U.S. soil to face a litany of charges. The 44-year-old from Thunder Bay, Ontario, arrested last night in Mexico City. A Mexican official saying today a Canadian voluntarily surrendered at the U.S. Embassy.
This is what a united front looks like.
It marks the end of a manhunt spanning an entire continent and coordination between police in 3 countries.
Here we are today, bringing him to justice for trafficking hundreds of kilos of cocaine and also for the murder of innocent civilians.
Wedding was first wanted by the RCMP in 2015. After fleeing Canada, he allegedly began building a multi-billion-dollar drug smuggling empire, trafficking tons of cocaine to the U.S. and Canada each year. Last year, finding himself on the FBI's 10 most wanted list after being accused of orchestrating the murder of a federal witness who was set to testify against him. He allegedly ordered a hit on a home in Caledon, Ontario that mistakenly resulted in the killing of an innocent family. The Bureau offering a $15 million reward for his capture, the heat ramping up in November when RCMP arrested several of his associates in Canada and Mexican authorities seized millions of dollars of his assets.
You're going to find a lot more other individuals who are going to come forward and say, listen, I'd rather give you the information. I'll tell you, I'll testify. Just don't put me in jail.
We will not comment on anyone regarding the rewards.
Few details released by officials today, with many left waiting for answers, including those who knew him.
In some ways, I can understand, the path that he took just because of the lack of funding in Canadian sport in general.
Wedding will be held in custody over the weekend, facing a list of charges related to murder and drug trafficking, with his initial court appearance Monday morning. Heather.
Thanks, Kamal. CTV's Kamal Kurmali in Toronto. A now disgraced Winnipeg police officer who pleaded guilty to several crimes, including drug trafficking, has learned his fate. The justice overseeing the case of Elston Bostock calling today a dark day for public confidence. Bostock was sentenced to 7 years for several charges, including drug trafficking and offering indignity to human remains. He was arrested in November 2024 following a lengthy investigation, which included placing hidden cameras in his car to catch him in the act. The Prime Minister has wrapped a 2-day Liberal cabinet retreat, one very much overshadowed by a war of words with the U.S. president. And that didn't seem to leave Mark Carney with any words to share with reporters today. CTV's Abigail Beeman explains.
At the last minute, the Prime Minister's podium removed, a news conference cancelled.
A scheduling issue. Prime Minister has been available, I understand, in the last few days.
Actually, Mark Carney hasn't taken questions since Sunday, not once during 2 days of cabinet meetings in Quebec City, nor since his Davos speech.
Mr. LeBlanc, what do you make of Donald Trump's comments about Afghanistan?
And minister after minister blew by reporters asking about Donald Trump's suggestion NATO troops in Afghanistan played a minor role, including the ministers of Defense and Veterans Affairs. While the site of the retreat is also headquarters to the Vandu regiment that lost 14 members. Afterwards, Carney's office said their sacrifice can never be diminished in a statement. A number of other swipes from the American president landed since the Davos speech. The Prime Minister's office won't say if they learned their invitation to Trump's Board of Peace was rescinded via social media.
We will continue to ensure that Canada does whatever possible to ensure that humanitarian aid flows and that there is a ceasefire that is maintained and that Hamas disarmed. Those are Canadian values, those are our values, and we will continue to pursue them regardless.
And no comment yet about the post that Canada is against the Golden Dome over Greenland, instead voting in favor of doing business with China, which will, quote, eat them up in a year. Perhaps the finance minister is summing up the messaging.
Listen, one thing I've learned over time is that you don't need to comment on every single comment that are being made.
But Canadians are still left in the dark about our relationship with our biggest trading partner as the North American Free Trade Deal is up for review. And Carney briefly quipped last night reporters who ask about Trump pose, quote, the most boring question. Heather?
Abigail Beeman in Quebec City. Thanks, Abigail. With Arctic security front and center, Canada's role in the North is being scrutinized. Ottawa is reassuring the U.S. and NATO allies it's doing its part to protect the region. CTV's Heather Wright is in the Northwest Territories tonight for a first-hand look.
The thermometer says minus 30, but with the wind chill, it feels more like minus 40. And even snowmobiles don't like to start in the extreme cold.
These vehicles may be difficult to start. We have like the pull cord as well to make sure that we can operate them anywhere.
The climate is the thread line through all military activity in the Arctic, centered here at Joint Task Force North in Yellowknife. Exercises like the one we joined today are ongoing, a way to both train soldiers and maintain a presence in the north.
Visibility, presence, definitely one or part of our mission here, and we're covering like 40% of Canada's landmass, 75% of its coastline, and through 4 time zones.
The federal government has committed to spending billions of dollars more on the Canadian Armed Forces, and that includes money for Arctic security. And even earlier this week, Prime Minister Mark Carney said part of solving the crisis with Greenland is beefing up security here in the north. Today, Denmark's Prime Minister visited Greenland in a show of support for the autonomous territory. U.S. President Donald Trump's threats to annex the island have brought more scrutiny to Canada's own Arctic security, with some leaders in the north saying Canada is long overdue in making significant investments in both military and infrastructure.
I think the time when we can just hope to ride the coattails of American efforts in the Arctic, I think we've seen how well that's working out for us. The Prime Minister probably put it best. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I think as Northerners, we feel like we'd be the main course.
Ottawa has committed $1 billion over 4 years for Arctic infrastructure, things like airstrips, deep water ports, and all-season roads. But critics say after decades of underinvestment, much more is needed. Heather.
CTV's Heather Wright in Yellowknife tonight. Thanks, Heather. Frigid cold warnings are sweeping across Canada, with some regions expected to feel like minus 45.
This cold weather does bring an elevated risk of house fires and carbon monoxide issues.
In Saskatoon, where wind chill values are expected to sink into the minus 40s, emergency crews are warning about hazards that come with space heaters and fuel-burning appliances, which can spark fires and trigger dangerous carbon monoxide levels. Moving east, Manitoba, Ontario, and parts of Quebec are also enduring the bone-chilling cold. An Arctic air mass is hovering over central Canada, with temperatures dipping below minus 40 with the wind chill. In Toronto, outreach teams have been activated to encourage people to seek shelter indoors, while in Quebec, people are being warned to keep an eye out for signs of frostbite. And police say poor visibility because of the weather conditions may have contributed to a crash involving 30 to 40 cars on an Ontario highway between Orillia and Barrie. At least 6 people were taken to hospital. And the East Coast also feeling the deep freeze. Warnings suggest people dress in layers. The bitterly cold temperatures are expected to last through the weekend. The bitter cold has millions of Canadians in its grip. Temperatures are dropping as the cost of keeping warm is rising. CTV's Adrian Gobriel on how energy prices are affecting Canadians during this cold snap.
An Arctic air mass is siphoning the spirit of some Canadians.
For those who doesn't have to go outside, stay in bed.
Oh my God, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I stay home most of the time.
Though staying home these days is far from a free ride, with natural gas prices on the rise.
A gas spike right now is because it's cold right through Canada and the United States. So the gas demand is up, and demand goes up, prices go up.
Western Canada is a net exporter of natural gas. Utilities heating homes in Eastern Canada import the bulk of their natural gas from the United States, where the cost is now soaring.
We've seen some prices in the U.S. Midwest spike to over $70 per MMBTU. I mean, these are massive prices, but they're cold weather related.
From forest fires to a historic deep freeze, Canada's climate is affecting the economy, with Canadian households bearing the brunt of the costs. The Canadian Climate Institute has estimated that by 2050, extreme weather events could cost the country between $78 and $101 billion per year in losses, depending on future greenhouse gas emissions.
Whether it's heat causing wildfires or extreme cold freezing your pipes, I'll have to leave a tap dripping to make sure my pipes don't freeze, because if they do, that's a huge expense.
In parts of Manitoba, schools have been shuttered today, with temperatures plunging to dangerous depths.
Northwest Territories across the prairies, we're seeing wind chills of minus 50.
As a deep freeze keeps its frosty grip on both sides of the border, many Canadians can expect the cost to heat their homes to remain elevated.
One alternative that could save you some money is a heat pump that both cools and heats your home on a budget, though it does come with an upfront cost. Any way you slice it, staying warm is the priority tonight and through the weekend. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Toronto.
A brutal winter storm is barreling over 3,000 kilometers of the United States. Millions of people are facing a triple threat of heavy snow, bone-chilling cold, and ice. High winds in Iowa nearly flipped this semi-truck. Parts of Michigan nearly impossible to see, and in Indiana, cars getting stuck in the deep snow and bitter wind chills plummeting anywhere from minus 31 degrees to a staggering minus 51. More than a dozen states have declared emergencies. Coming up, a mother's quest.
It's deeply painful for me. It's been 4 months now. I didn't see my daughter at all.
Her desperate attempt to track down her daughter, allegedly abducted and taken to Egypt. A Newfoundland mother is in Egypt tonight, desperately searching for her 5-year-old daughter, who she hasn't seen since September of last year. Police say the girl's father abducted Tamara and took her out of the country. CTV's Garrett Berry on her pleas for help.
Even with an Egyptian court order and help from local police, Bushra Marbouhi hasn't located her estranged husband or 5-year-old daughter since arriving in Egypt weeks ago.
It's deeply painful for me. It's been 4 months now. I didn't see my daughter at all. I don't know how she's doing, what he's telling her. I'm stressed all the time.
September 26th was the last time Marbouhi saw the girl in St. John's, despite a Newfoundland court ruling that forbid either parent from taking the little girl away. Police say Ahmed El Gamal illegally took the girl to the airport and left the country.
She was just asking for the bare minimum protection, and it was granted. However, it cannot be enforced. So it begs the question, what is the point of this? It's similar to peace bonds in some sense, where you have a piece of paper, but what is the point of the paper if there's no action?
Marbouhi's Egyptian lawyer says the law there is clear. The girl should be returned to her regular home. The law also stipulates anyone found to be aiding the father in escaping from police or court orders could themselves face legal consequence.
She's also had contact with his family in Kuwait and also in Newfoundland, who have not assisted either. They haven't given any information that will assist in us finding Tamara and Ahmed. However, they are in contact with Ahmed.
Marbouhi's lawyers believe an Interpol red notice would spark increased policing efforts in Egypt towards finding the man and her child. Police here in Newfoundland and Labrador say they have started that process. They also maintain their own investigation is still underway. Heather.
CTV's Garrett Berry, thank you. Still ahead tonight. A final farewell to a fashion icon, how mourners paid tribute to Valentino. A day after Canadian veterans took exception to Donald Trump downplaying NATO's role in Afghanistan, today the British response followed. Prince Harry weighed in with a statement saying, "I served there, I made lifelong friends there, and I lost friends there. Those sacrifices deserve to be spoken about truthfully and with respect." Prince Harry was deployed twice to Afghanistan in his 10-year military career. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has also lashed out.
I consider President Trump's remarks to be insulting and frankly appalling.
Starmer is demanding an apology from Trump. Like Canada, the UK had a major role in the Afghanistan mission. 457 British troops lost their lives in the conflict. The young Canadian backpacker who was found dead on an Australian beach earlier this week was likely not directly killed by a pack of wild dogs, according to an autopsy. The local coroner's office says a preliminary assessment on the body of 19-year-old Piper James suggests the death was caused by drowning. While her body was surrounded by dingoes when it was discovered, they do not appear to be the cause of death. Family, friends, and fans bid farewell to famed fashion designer Valentino today in Rome. Actress Anne Hathaway, influential publisher Anna Wintour, and designer Donatella Versace among the celebrities paying their respects. Valentino died on Monday at the age of 93. He rose to the heights of fashion, innovating luxury style and a new color he brought the world known as Valentino Red. Still ahead, why more Canadian kids are leaving the rink behind in favor of the soccer pitch. Sport plays an important role in the lives of children across this country. And while Canada has for decades been known as a hockey-crazed nation, new numbers confirm many more young athletes are now scoring goals on the field, not the ice. CTV's Andrew Johnson explains.
Go, 1, 2, 3, let's go.
Under the lights in Vancouver.
Remember, guys, we have to accelerate with the ball.
Canadian winter for these kids is spent on the field, not at the rink.
When I go outside, it just makes me feel happy. It's really fun.
They're part of a Canadian generation now overwhelmingly choosing soccer over hockey.
This has been his sport since he was like 2 years old. Messi and Ronaldo. And so those were the two guys that he looked up to, and it's just something that came naturally to him.
According to a new report by Canadian Tire Jumpstart Charities, half of young Canadians play soccer, making it the most widely played youth sport in the country, more than twice the number who play hockey.
I think it's so accessible. Kids can play at school, at recess, at lunch. All you need is a ball and a wall.
It's multicultural. You don't need to speak to get a, friendship. You just have to play soccer.
Yes,
The popularity of soccer also comes down to cost. The report says families spent 4 times more to put a child in hockey. Equestrian topped the list.
This keeps them off of video games, which I feel is way more expensive.
Our informal poll of this bunch shows they are all feeling the excitement ahead of the World Cup coming to town in June.
It feels a bit nervous because where the field that they're going to warm up on and stuff, we live very close to it.
A huge moment for what is now Canada's most played game. What hasn't changed is the positive power of sport. 96% of families say they believe it improves their children's physical health. 93% point to mental health benefits. Now that's a win. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Certainly is the power of sport. That is our newscast for this Friday. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and I'll see you again tomorrow.